Hi there. So, this season, I have been thinking about traditional Christmassy seasonal dishes and was thinking to myself, why do we always sing about figgy pudding and never eat it or make it? Maybe you make it, maybe it's just me, but I have never made figgy pudding, so I decided to give it a shot. Historically, figgy pudding was made with raisins and currants and pork or other meat parts that we are not going to go into today, and we're going to avoid altogether and make a more classic fig cake, if you will. But we're going to call it figgy pudding. I add lots of spices into the batter to give it the seasonal flavor that I like to go for this time of year. And I'm also going to make a spiced butterscotch sauce to go on top of it, which is really delicious when served warm. So traditionally, it is made in a bowl. This bowl would be a bit too big for it. This is my mixing bowl. But traditionally, it's made in a glass bowl, if you have one, a smaller size, so that after it's baked, when it's inverted, it has a dome shape to it, and then you can pour your sauce on top of it. I am gonna make it in this bundt pan today just because I have it and I think it's cute and I've been wanting to use it. I like to make mine with dried figs. Fresh figs can be harder to find, so you can make it with dried figs, which you hopefully won't have any problem finding. If you do have access to fresh figs, it is delicious served with those around it with the sauce poured on top of it. The figgy pudding is grain-free. I use my go-to cassava flour. It does have eggs in it, so if you prefer plant-based, you should try a chia egg or a flax egg. So I hope that you guys will enjoy this, solving the mystery of what is figgy pudding and why, if we're gonna sing about it, we better eat it and make it as delicious as possible. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy almost New Year, and I'm sending all of you my love.
I have my oven preheating to 350 degrees and I am going to prepare my figgy pudding batter. So first I have pre-measured 1 cup of dried figs and I am chopping those up as finely as possible. You can see the size is as small as I can get it. And I'm chopping those at superhuman speed. I have my saucepan heated up to a low heat and I'm adding in 1 cup of non-dairy milk and then that 1 cup of finely chopped dried figs. I'm going to whisk that together and keep that heating for about 5 minutes over low heat until the figs have softened. The milk is going to evaporate quite a bit and the figs are going to soak some of that up, but that is okay. You can see that the milk is quite dark after 5 minutes. I fast forwarded the speed, obviously. Once that's done, I'm going to take it off the heat and set it aside so I can whisk together my dry ingredients. I have 1 cup of cassava flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, a half a teaspoon of fine sea salt, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, a quarter teaspoon of ground cloves, and a quarter teaspoon of ground ginger. Whisking that all together, and then I'm going to set that aside to mix my wet ingredients. So I'm going to pour in half a cup of maple syrup and a quarter cup of melted and slightly cooled ghee. You can use unsalted butter or coconut oil as well. Once that's combined, I'm going to add in my fig mixture that's cooled slightly while it waited. And then I'm going to zest in an orange. I would normally use 1 full-size orange, but I don't have those on hand. I have my kids' little clementines, so I'm using 2 of those today. I think orange zest, I think orange, I think seasonal flavors. So I wanted to make sure to incorporate that in, and it adds a nice layer of flavor to the figgy pudding. Then I'm going to crack in 2 large eggs and whisk that in as well as I can get it. And then I'm going to add all of this fig mixture back into the dry ingredients and whisk that together until I have a batter that's fully combined. Like I said, am using my bundt pan today. You can use a small to medium-sized glass bowl as well to bake in. The main thing is that you want to make sure it's really well greased. So I've greased mine with my ghee. Use whatever fat you are using in the batter to grease your pan. And the reason it needs to be really well greased is because after it's baked, you're going to invert that to put it on your serving dish, and you want to make sure it comes out really well and doesn't stick to the pan. So I am pouring this into my bundt pan, and I am going to bake this at 350 degrees for about 30 minutes until a toothpick comes out clean. Again, it all depends on the size of your pan and your oven. So I would check it at around 25 minutes. Could take less time or could take a little longer, depending on the size pan that you use. And while that bakes, I'm going to prepare my spiced butterscotch glaze. So I have my saucepan over medium heat, and I'm adding in a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, a 1/4 cup of non-dairy milk, and a 1/4 cup of ghee. You can use unsalted butter here as well. I'm going to whisk that all together, or stir it actually, and then let that come to like a simmer, and it's going to get quite foamy. And once it is foamy, which is going to take about 3 to 5 minutes, I'm going to bring the heat to low, and I'm going to whisk in my salt and my spices. I'm using a 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and a 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger. And what I'm going to do is stir that all together and let it continue to cook over that low heat for about 3 to 5 minutes until it slightly thickens. And the way that I can know that it is ready is by checking it with a metal spoon. I dip in my metal spoon and I look to see if the back of it is coated pretty nicely in the glaze. If it slips off pretty quickly, it's not ready yet. You want it to just slightly coat the back of a metal spoon, as you can see. And then I'm just going to turn off the heat and pour that over the top of my figgy pudding. I like to garnish it with fresh figs, so if you can find those, it's excellent served with the fresh figs. You can use dried as well, or just skip that altogether. And then you're going to pour the warmed spiced butterscotch glaze over the top and serve it right away. Any leftover glaze that I have, I like to add into a little serving container so more can be added on as needed when serving. I hope you guys will enjoy this. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas.